You know, the focus for today's show is high-end audio. And that term, high-end audio, it gets applied to a lot of products that I don't think are particularly high-end at all. But and high-end, by the way, to me, means a quest for excellence in design, in engineering, in sound quality, in build quality. That's what high-end means, at least to me. And this product I'm reviewing today, the TAD ME1TX, absolutely 100% qualifies as high-end audio. Now, TAD is a Japanese company. They design and build their products in Japan. They were founded in 1970 as a pro sound company making studio monitors. And then in the early 2000s, they also started to make consumer-oriented high-end audio speakers and also electronics, by the way. They've always made electronics right from the very beginning. But anyway, this one today, the ME1TX, this is the updated version of the original ME1 that debuted in 2016. And pretty much everything about the new one is updated and revised and improved over the original model. Though they look very similar, the original and the ME1TX, but actually they're quite different when you look a bit closer. I want to take a second to just give you a brief rundown of what I love about the sound of this speaker. And that is, it is extremely transparent. It is so pure and so clear sounding, but it also has an incredibly beautiful sound. Mid-range, well, to die for. It's just a gorgeous sounding speaker. So it's a high-res speaker, but it's not one that's so revealing that a lot of your recordings sound like, well, crap. So that's a very rare achievement, to make a speaker that's so clear, so pure sounding, but also easy to listen to. And the sound staging abilities of the ME1TX are extraordinary. It's just a very open sounding speaker with very precise localization within the soundstage. Beautiful highs, gorgeous mids, and very clear, defined lows. So it kind of checks a lot of boxes. And you just look at this speaker, and the fit, I don't know if it shows up that well in images that I'm showing you, but the build quality is extraordinary. The fit and finish are at the absolute highest levels. Oh, and it's also very expensive, and I'll get to the price soon enough. But I'm going to run down some of the details of the design right now. Now, this is a three-way design with a concentric mid tweeter. The tweeter itself is a 25 millimeter vapor deposited beryllium tweeter. Now that's seriously exotic. And it's an update of the original and has new adhesives that are lighter and stronger. It is an advancement over the original tweeter. And as for the mid-range, it's a magnesium cone that's 3.5 inches in diameter. It has a new basket that's lighter and stronger. It's cast aluminum and allows for better airflow behind the driver itself. The magnesium diaphragm is coated to make it stiffer and stronger, and it's also actually lighter than the original. Now, as for the woofer, it's a 6.5-inch unit with a multi-layer aramid cone. It also has a new basket, cast aluminum basket, for improved airflow behind the driver, and there's a new magnetic circuit, meaning the motor itself is improved over the original version of the speaker, the 2016 model. The ME1TX takes a completely different and I think unique approach to making a ported design, and it uses slits that are on both sides of the cabinet, in the front and in the rear. And I've never seen anything quite like that. And also the advantage is that it's very quiet. You will not hear any sound, any chuffing sound coming from those slit ports. And also the ports are, the face of those ports, the sides of the speaker, are 5 millimeter thick aluminum plates that are also serve to strengthen and support the cabinet. And also I was using the factory stands, which are cost extra, and they are very impressive stands. They're just so elegant looking with this forward pillar. Very, very impressive. And the speaker itself weighs 46 pounds. It's only 16 inches high, so it's a very solid feeling enclosure. And let's take a look at the specifications. And you will note that this is a 4 ohm rated speaker. Sensitivity is definitely on the low side. It's 85 dB. And the low frequency spec listed there without a plus or minus tolerance is 36 hertz. And I did not achieve anywhere near 36 hertz in my room. It was basically 46, 47 hertz. Reasonably full range, but not going subwoofer deep, that's for sure. But then again, no small speaker with a 6.5-inch woofer is going to go as deep as a subwoofer. That's just not possible. Finally, I'll get to the price. The ME1TX in the black finish sells for $18,200 a pair, and the optional stands are $2,800 a pair. In the silver white finish, the price goes up to $19,200 a pair, and the stands are $2,900 a pair. I'm going to get a little deeper into my sound impressions of the ME1TX with this recording, this very special to me recording by Anna Karam. It was recorded in 1986 in New York City at BMG, and in their studio was Studio A, because they had a few different studios in that building. And I gotta say, it was a very large studio. The session was analog and digital, so we recorded to analog tape and also to digital. And the LP was mastered from the analog. So in other words, there's no digital conversions in making this LP. And I listened to this recording, and it's like time traveling to me. It goes back, and I'm hearing her voice sounding so real, so present, and so beautiful. And the guitars and the percussion and the space of the studio itself. I was working on this session, we recorded in the studio because the studio itself had beautiful acoustics. Again, there's no dynamic range compression. And the relative dynamics of all of the instruments are so well preserved in the recording and heard by me over these speakers all these years later. So this is serious goosebump territory. It is a high-end experience to get back to where all of this started. And that's what makes this speaker so special, is its resolution is to die for. And then to mix it up a bit, I played this Black Keys album. This is hard rock, dense, crunchy, meat on the bones music on LP too. And it sounded great. And I wanted to play it loud, 90 dB peaks, actually 95 dB peaks for a minute or two at a time, just to see how these speakers would handle very loud playback. And they were not at all stressed out. They can definitely handle that type of volume, and I'm sure they can play even louder. But hey, I wanted to save my ears. So I stuck with 90 dB peaks for a couple of minutes at a time. And then I played Aphex Twin. This is dense, crunchy, weird electronic music, huge soundstage, way beyond the actual width of the speaker's locations in the room, lots of front to back depth, all of it processed and not real, but that's what's in the recording, and that's what the ME1TX delivered. And the bass definition is phenomenal. Like, you just hear every little texture and detail in the bass, and especially with music like this. Yeah, the ME1TX can give that kind of, let's say, information that's in the recording like few speakers can. Certainly, again, of their size. I played a lot of jazz and horns and brass instruments. The leading edge, let's say, bite of brass, the transient response, really phenomenal. This speaker can definitely track that kind of energy. The next bit of music I want to talk about is the Beatles. The Beatles' Let It Be. So I put it on, and I was thinking about the Peter Jackson documentary that showed last year. Was it 2 years ago? And when you see the Beatles at work making this record, you know what you don't see? You don't see them wearing headphones. And they're all in the same room, including Ringo. They're all together and they can all see and hear each other acoustically. They're all sharing that space together. So as they're playing, they're reacting to each other in ways that if they were closeted off in a booth for the drums and the singers and stuff like that, the way most modern recordings are made, you wouldn't hear that level of intimacy. And there was something really special about the way the ME1TX does vocals, reproducing the sound of John and Paul and Ringo and George. It was just kind of eerie to hear them sounding more there, more fully present in my room, this recording from 50 years ago. Yes, I love this speaker's mid-range. And again, I noticed this in the original ME1 review that I did in 2017, that there was this organic quality that you just don't hear in too many high-res speakers. I almost always make mention in speaker reviews of how well the speaker performs when listened to very quietly, meaning, let's say 40, 45 dB level. And this speaker, I wouldn't say it's great. It's certainly usable and certainly enjoyable, but I've heard better, usually with much higher sensitivity speakers than this one. And so yeah, I'd say it gets a passing grade for low-level listening, but that's not its forte. Now, as for comparisons, I have to admit, I didn't have any speakers to logically compare it with. I didn't have KEF reference speakers. I didn't have the B&W 805 D4s. I didn't have anything else that would make sense to compare it with. I don't have it. I can't do the comparison. But I did compare it with my Pure Audio Project Duet 15 open baffle speakers. Well, it's a weird comparison because, well, the Pure Audio Project has a 15-inch woofer. And comparing that to a speaker with a 6.5-inch woofer, yeah, it sounds like a smaller speaker, no doubt. And the ME1 could not compete with a horn speaker like the Klipsch OJAS speaker. No, doesn't do dynamics like a horn speaker can. That's not in the cards for the ME1TX. But the ME1TX had vastly better resolution than those speakers. You could hear into the details of the recording far more than you can with the Pure Audio Project speaker or the Klipsch OJAS speaker. So they're doing different things. All right, we're going to move on to, so Steve, what do you really think of the TAD ME1TX stand mount speaker? Well, like I said in the front of this, it's a high-end speaker. It is an exceptional speaker in so many regards. And I think the most important thing that it does, that I haven't touched on yet, is that as you play through your recordings, whether they're streams or files or LPs, each one is going to sound different, as they should, because they were all recorded in different circumstances, different studios, different microphones, different engineers. Everything was different when you go from one record to the next, and you should hear those differences. A lot of lesser systems can sound nice and sweet and wonderful, but they tend to blur those differences. And with a speaker as resolute as this one, those differences just come right out at you. So it's a surprise. Every time you play a recording, you're surprised. And usually, I would say, pleasantly surprised by what you hear. That is exceptional. The soundstage of this speaker is so big, spacious, open, layered. It does all of that with just kind of, yeah, you just go, wow. You keep saying, wow, every time you play a recording, like, I never heard it do that. It was in the recording all along, but I never heard it sound quite like that. And that's why it's worth it, if you got the bucks, to buy a speaker like this. But here's the thing. If I've whet your appetite for this sound, but you don't have anywhere near $18,000 to buy a pair of speakers, well, what you could do is you could look around on the used market for the original ME1, the one that came out in 2016. And I'm sure those are going for significantly less, and they have a lot of what makes this speaker so amazing is in the original ME1. So there's always that to consider. And speaking of considering, yes, it is now time for, you know it, you love it, the Audiophiliac viewer system of the day. Peter sent in these beautiful pictures of his listening room. The speakers are Ohm Walsh 5, so we're upgraded in the 2020s, and the subwoofer is a Rel T9. The integrated amp is a Hagel H390. Now, he doesn't have a turntable, but he's playing CDs from the digital output on a Sony DVD player into the Hagel. As for streaming, he's running Qobuz from a Roon server on his MacBook into the Hagel. Thanks so much, Peter, for sharing your system. And now we are back. My name is Steve Guttenberg. I am the Audiophiliac. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching this far into the video. I don't usually ask, but if you like these things, please give them a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel if you have yet to do so. But pretty please consider joining my Patreon. The address is on the screen right now. And you can join for a couple of bucks a month, up to $50 or even $100 a month. And at the top 2 levels, you and I will have a conversation every month, one-on-one, at the beginning of the month. And I love doing these calls. So, and we're coming up to it right now, soon, for May. Anyway, so consider that. And with that, I can say my work here is at last complete. So thank you again for watching. And I really do hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Bye-bye.